Alrighty, everyone, welcome back to another live stream here on the channel. Hopefully everyone is having a great day so far, great Tuesday so far, or actually Monday rather, great Monday so far. Let's go and switch on over to our main scene. We do have a confirmed tornado warning here out from the National Weather Service as there is a tornado in progress. I'm going to quickly get a camera up on this, that way I could see exactly what we are looking at here. I know we have a camera in the area, so let's switch over to our main radar here. Yeah, you can see that little green CC drop right here just to the northwest of northern Houston. That's right in this area. A very small CC drop here. I'm going to go ahead and, like I said, find that camera really quick here. All right, so this is a confirmed tornado, but actually I don't really see a condensed tornado here. Let's see if I can get it from this chaser. So yeah, there's a few angles here. Just see if we've got anyone who's actually got this on the ground. So it might have just been a brief spin up there for just a couple of seconds, enough to pick up a little bit of debris, because I don't see it on the ground at the moment. Let me go back to this traffic camera here. Yeah, but anyways, again, we do have a confirmed tornado warning here. So a tornado is on the ground out in this area. This is just to the north of downtown Houston, Texas. So Oak Ridge North, Spring, up here towards Woodlodge. All these areas in a confirmed tornado warning. Now, I'm going to switch to this scene, but I have a feeling things are going to be wrong on it. Actually, no. Wow, that's a shocker. I'm shocked that is not. Yeah, that looks perfectly fine. So we are under a confirmed tornado warning. You can see that debris signature. And for those who are new to reading radar here, this is how we can easily confirm if there's a tornado or not a tornado when we are in a relatively good distance from the storm. So you don't want to be too close to the radar site, and you don't want to be too far from the radar site. So we're right at about that perfect range. We are a little bit further than what we would like here, but you can see we've got a CC drop. That's the biggest thing, a CC drop. Another huge thing is velocity, which you could see we don't really have a notable area of spin here. That's why I'm not really thinking this is a condensed, strong tornado or anything like that. We do have reflectivity present, which means this is not corruption. And we do also have, again, that CC drop. Spectrum width is also present. And you can see we just got an official tornado report there. Storm Chaser reported a funnel cloud near Grant Road. Storm Spotter then observed a funnel cloud reaching the ground and a weak tornado. So weak tornado was a little funnel, then turned into a weak tornado. So that spectrum width also confirms there's wind speeds in the area, and then not a big ZDR drop. So that's another reason why that ZDR drop is not very present, which is another reason why I don't believe this is a strong condensed tornado or anything like that. It's likely just maybe just a brief tornado here and there, but it's just a strong enough tornado to be able to pick up a little bit of debris. So multiple brief spin up tornadoes here with this storm here as it's moving off to the northeast. Very weak velocities. I do want to go over to our terminal radar because that's literally right next to our storm here, and you can see we've got this tiny little area of red and actually blue velocities. So those blue velocities, those are wind speeds of about 60 to about 65 miles per hour in this case, and those reds are about 20 mile an hour winds. So we're looking at about a give or take 80 to 90 mile per hour area of rotation. So strong enough to the point where we could get a tornado on the ground with this storm. Which, again, there is a tornado on the ground. I still don't see it. It's not fully condensed. It may be getting more rain wrapped, so I might be looking more of on the mesocyclone and not actually seeing where the tornado is. So these are 1 minute scans, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, these are 1 minute scans here, so we'll be able to see if this is getting strong or not. So if we go back a couple of frames here, this is all the way to about 15 or so minutes ago. We probably had a brief spin-up tornado back here with this same storm. Just a quick spin-up tornado. Nothing was confirmed in this case, but that was strong enough to the point where we could have had a rain-wrapped brief tornado. And then it did a meso handoff. You could see this dies out, and we get a new area of spin here, and that ends up dropping a tornado and might still be. That's probably on the ground. Probably stronger now. I'd have to imagine with that new scan, a lot more confined area of velocities there and a lot stronger DBZ. So we could have a strong tornado here ongoing. Despite what the main radar is showing, that main radar is just a little bit too far. Just a little bit too far because we've got this much closer radar here, which shows a much stronger area of velocities, upwards of 100 mile an hour winds with this now, because you've got 33 and about 62 or so, and now it just broke apart again. So that's how fast these things can form and dissipate. So weak rotation, getting a bit stronger, pretty strong rotation, and now just falling apart. That's how fast these things can go from on the ground to lifted. Let me see. Thank you for the kind words at Ping1. Welcome to the stream. Also, welcome Caden, Proxy, Jake, Ben, Joyce, and everyone else who is in here who may not be chatting, or if you're just now watching or just tuning in. Glad to see you in here. So, yeah, we do have a chaser. Is that on the ground? I can't tell. It's hard to tell. Definitely was very close to the ground. And, oh, it was on the ground. Oh, it was. Yep. Yeah, I just went back in that live stream, and there was very clearly a tornado on the ground. Yes, we do have a confirmed strong tornado that was on the ground. Now it has weakened and is likely lifting, but there is still a funnel cloud, and there may still be a debris cloud under that. It's hard to tell. I have to look further away to try to see if I can see through the rain. So this could still be on the ground, but there was indeed a strong tornado lofting a lot of debris up into the atmosphere here. That was indeed a condensed, strong tornado that was on the ground. Let's see if our main radar's changed. Yeah, it's still a decent CC here, and ooh, yeah. So we can go up to about 7,000 to 8,000 feet into the atmosphere. That tells me, yeah, this was probably a pretty strong tornado. If you can go 7,000 to 8,000 feet up and still see debris, that means a lot of stuff was lofted into that tornado and around that tornado. So likely was a strong tornado. Let's see where this, yeah, all residential homes too, unfortunately. Very, very, very packed metro area here. This is on the northwest side of Houston. So really populated region. You can see a bit of a deeper CC drop now. Don't have any new scans on the radar tilt, but you can see very clearly a lot of debris being lofted there. Now, I don't know. I don't think that is on the ground anymore. I believe this is now going to turn into fallout. So, yeah, I don't think this is on the ground anymore. At least not according to what I'm seeing. And if it is rain-wrapped. Wait for that terminal scan here in literally 2 seconds. 1, 2. It could still be on the ground, just very rain-wrapped. So what happened here was a brief tornado. Let's go through the lifespan of this first. So first, right when it got tornado warned, it was a little weak area of rotation. That intensified, probably dropped a quick rain-wrapped tornado, weakened. It underwent a meso handoff, and a new tornado formed down in here. And you could see, boom, there's that tornado report. And once they got that, they issued the confirmed tornado warning. It lifted, touched back down briefly, and then likely lifted again, and then touched back down as a strong tornado. And that's why all that debris got lifted up that you saw on our main radar site. And then just a couple minutes ago, started to weaken again, probably lifted. And it could be back on the ground. You could see it did increase in velocities again. So it may be back on the ground based off of that velocity signature. And you could see still pretty tight velocity couplet there. So we very easily could still have a tornado on the ground. Either possibly the same one, possibly the same tornado that was strong earlier, or maybe a different tornado from the same mesocyclone here. And I would say that this is probably rain-wrapped now at this point, because what's happening is we are in the occlusion process. So that's where, if we go all the way back here, you could see our brief tornado happen there, and that was in the hook echo. And then our stronger tornado happened pretty much whilst that occlusion process was happening. I mean, you really can't see much of a hook in here, but that occlusion process was happening as we got that strong tornado, and now it's really embedded inside the storm. Yeah, look at that. That's debris now over 9,000 feet up into the atmosphere. So very strong tornado that occurred, and may still be occurring at this point. Very well may still be occurring right now. There's your new terminal scan. Doesn't look as impressive. Now, remember, we are scanning very, very low into the atmosphere at this point. I mean, we're only scanning, get this, only 20 feet. Only 20 feet up. That is not very far up whatsoever. So we are looking at essentially almost the strength of the tornado with how low this beam is scanning, because we're so close to that terminal radar. So this is about a, give or take, right about a 60 mile per hour couplet. We could have a tornado on the ground, but if it's on the ground now, I'd expect it to not be on the ground for much longer, because it is well in that occlusion process. We'll have to watch for another meso handoff and see if anything happens there. I doubt we'll see another meso handoff, but hey, you never know. All right, new scan here. And there you go. Completely gone on that new scan. I mean, you still have like 30 mile an hour rotation, but I extremely doubt that is going to be a tornado ongoing anymore. So we'll continue to watch that, see if see if we can get a meso handoff to happen here. You can see that new area of interest down in here. However, if we switch to velocity, there's next to nothing there. So I don't see that being a meso handoff immediately at this point. Yeah, for sure was over homes at its strongest. Unfortunately, that seems to be the case here. I don't see a way how it wasn't over homes when it was at its strongest. So let's see here. I'm gonna go to weather-wise because I can go down to straight view here. So this was right about when it was its strongest. Right about when it was its strongest here. And you probably can't even... Oh, hey, right over a fire department. Oh, my goodness. Directly over a fire department right there. So, at this point, you know, this only shows, like, what, maybe 60 mile an hour rotation? 30 plus 50. That's 80 mile an hour rotation. I was very far off. About 80 mile an hour rotation. It was actually stronger than that. But we just couldn't get the scans because we have these little no data gaps with our terminal radars. So we couldn't actually get the full wind speeds on the terminal radar. But it's better than what our main radar site was because our main radar is substantially further away. Trying to fix the screen again. There we go. Perfect. So let's go ahead and play that back again. So it was right over the fire department here. I'll zoom out so you can get an idea of where this was. So there's downtown Houston. Up here is where northern Houston is. So this was a bit removed from actually being the Houston metro area. It was much closer to back up here near, let's see, just to the southwest of Creekside Park. Yeah, right to the south of Creekside Park. Very close to, actually really close to the David Wayne Hooks Memorial Airport there. Very close to an airport. Still an observed tornado warning. This is the current scan, and there's nothing really left there on velocities. So I don't think they will be continuing that active tornado warning for too much longer unless there's more evidence of a meso handoff starting to occur here. Which at the moment is not the case. All right, let's go to our composite reflectivity here, give you an overview of our severe weather risk for the day. We do have a tornado watch out for the next 5 or so hours with a 60% chance of 2 or more tornadoes and a 40, no, it should be a 20%. Yeah, 20%. 20% chance one of those is strong. So 60% chance that we see 2 or more tornadoes, 20% chance one of those is strong, 40% chance of 10 or more wind severe events, 20% chance one of those is intense of 75 miles per hour, and then a 40% chance of 10 or more severe hail events, and a 30% chance one of those is right around or maybe just less than 2 inch in diameter. So overall, a pretty normal tornado watch, I would say. Really nothing that's impressive, to be honest with you. It's a pretty normal tornado watch there that has been issued from the SPC earlier today. We are getting a new SPC Outlook. Matter of fact, we just got it. So this is your new SPC Outlook right now. And you can see they have indeed shifted that 5% risk for tornadoes decently further off to the south, like we were talking about in yesterday's briefing. So pretty large 5% there, very large 5% risk for tornadoes. They've kept that large 15% wind, and they have kept that 15% hail as well. I know in the early morning update, they actually did have they had a hatched risk. They had a hatched risk out there in eastern Texas, but they ended up removing that with the afternoon update. But a very large 5% tornado risk remains from the SPC. And honestly, we could have seen a 10 hatch risk in this area. It wouldn't have surprised me if they went 10 hatched in this region here on this update. But there's a lot of fail modes for today, which is most likely why they withheld that. There's so many fail modes. I don't know if possibly they would have mentioned that. Supercells and a line segment capable of damaging winds and perhaps a few. Well, okay, they definitely were not thinking about going 10 hatched on this update. Definitely, that wording is not even close to 10 hatched wording right there. Perhaps a few tornadoes. That's nowhere near 10 sig wording. Let's see here. Got to look at our updates real quick from the model runs and meso analysis. So, yeah, the main threat today is going to be right along the warm front. A pretty good environment in place for it today, to be honest with you. Not really that bad of an environment here. This is taking a look at instability on meso analysis, and remember we are in second season, so really anything greater than 500 is sufficient for thunderstorms. So you're really looking at that first dark red line, which goes right up into here, and this will extend further north with time, especially once our cold front comes in closer to about 7 p.m. Eastern time. So that is a really a pretty good environment. You've got a pretty large area of good instability out there. And really, this whole area should be quite favorable for all hazards. You can see plenty of wind shear there. Maybe a little lacklustering in the... yeah, a little bit lacklustering in the knots department for the 0 to 1 kilometer shear. But really, plenty of wind shear there. I know lapse rates are an issue, so we're not seeing many sustaining supercells right now. You can see only... So that's going to be probably the number one reason why they didn't go 10 sig toward today. Lapse rates are only at 5.4, so the sustainability of supercells will really depend off of mergers for today. But really, outside of lapse rates, we have a good lower level jet. We have a good amount of 0 to 3 kilometer SRH right along that warm front, which is right in here. Right along in here is where that warm front is. So we've got plenty of 0 to 3 kilometer SRH there. 0 to 1 kilometer SRH, we've got a decent amount. It's not the best, but once you get closer to that warm front, it is closer to about 100 to 150. And then that overall results in a pretty good area for severe weather today. Now, I don't know why. Yeah, you can even see the supercell composite is actually pretty high, even going up all the way into almost Dallas there. And that's because of instability. Even though you're low on instability, it's such a highly sheared environment that we could end up seeing that low cape, high shear type setup going a bit further to the north there. I don't know why my code's cut off. I hope that wasn't like that at the beginning of the stream. Just fix that. There you go. Perfect. So they did just cancel that observed tornado warning, and they've actually downgraded it to a radar indicated tornado warning. And you can see there's really nothing left with this storm. Really nothing left here. We can go to our main radar site to see if... Yeah, I doubt this is going to be doing anything for the next couple minutes here. So... yeah, another huge problem is our main risk today is in a radar hole. So unfortunately, we are looking at a very dangerous situation for that reason alone. Today's threat for tornadoes is not extremely high, but because we don't have any radars in this area, you can expect a pretty rough time for tornado warnings. So there's a very real chance we see a couple of unwarned tornadoes today. So you need to be hyper weather aware, very, very weather aware today, especially if you are in eastern Texas and western Louisiana, specifically in this area here. The NWS will try their best to warn the storms that they believe are tornadic, but really it's going to be difficult with how far all of our radars are located from this region. So just even be more weather aware, even more than what you normally would on a 5% tornado risk day, be even more weather aware than that because of that lack of radar coverage. Thankfully, I do know we have quite a few storm chasers out there, but obviously, eastern Texas and Louisiana, not the best chasing terrain. Shreveport, you're in a 5% tornado risk. I would definitely be watching out. Let's go over some model ones here. Do we have a 19Z? Perfect. We do have 19Z coming in right now, which is pretty dang aggressive. Honestly, pretty dang aggressive and pretty concerning for 7 p.m. here. So you've got some supercells along your cold front here. You've got that batch of prefrontal storms right along your warm front. Another batch of prefrontal storms right along your warm front there as well. But I do want to check the instability. Yep, so those are right along the warm front. All three of those are right along the warm front there. So that would definitely be an issue for all hazards, but I do want to check Shreveport for you. So we're going to have to go back one model run here, which is not anything bad. But yeah, your main threat would be with embedded tornadoes inside this line here. It's really a sloppy setup, so I don't see a really good threat for tornadoes, but there is a chance for a spin-up tornado or two around Shreveport. The main timing would be probably between 6 p.m. Yeah, 6 p.m. Central. Yeah, 6 p.m. Central time, all the way till about maybe 9, 10 p.m., depending when that front passes. Okay, there we go. Would you say it was a strong tornado? The one in the one we just tracked, yeah. Yeah, I'd say it was a strong to borderline strong tornado. Lofted debris about 9,100 feet up into the atmosphere. So I would say it was probably decently strong there. And it had a couplet right around the max I saw was probably right about 100 or so. So I don't believe that's quite EF2 intensity, but it was probably somewhere right around upper end weak tornado or low end strong tornado. There's your couplet right there. And that is 95 mile-an-hour rotation right there. So not quite a strong tornado by definition, but it lofted debris, like I said, over 9,000 feet. So it would be probably right around there. It just depends how much damage it did on the ground. Unfortunately, it did go through a very populated area. So hopefully it wasn't as strong as what radar was showing. Hopefully everyone's all right. I know it went over a fire department too. According to radar, it went very close to or possibly directly over a fire department. All right, let me go back over to WeatherWise here. I've been using WeatherWise substantially more in the last 5 days, getting used to their models and everything, because Radar Omega has become completely useless on my computer. There's no point. It barely runs anymore. It's laggy. The counties are messed up. The models don't load. So I'm trying to switch fully over to WeatherWise right now. But yeah, the main area for tornadoes today will be focused along the warm front. And for the next about, give or take, 5-6 hours, that's going to be positioned generally in this vicinity and here. So that's going to be where our highest tornado threat is from now all the way till about 7 p.m. And then once we get to about 7 p.m. here, which is right about in here, Central Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, that's when your cold front gets a lot closer to your warm front here. and your trough begins to push in a lot further to the east, which allows for a much better amount of instability. Now, the big problem is the sun starts to set, so your instability is weakening, but it is pushing further to the north. So if we pull this out a little bit more, you could see here, starting right about 7 p.m. Central Time, that warm front lifts considerably more to the north. I mean, for really the rest of the day, it stays like right in here, right? The rest of the day, the next 4 to 5 hours, it stays right in that area. And then once you hit 7 p.m. Central, that warm front starts to really move off to the north. And you could see it's all the way up here. So it moves a considerable amount in the matter of 3 hours. It goes from maybe right around like Maryville, just south of Alexandria, Louisiana, all the way up here to near Mansfield and Jonesboro in Louisiana in the matter of 3 to 4 hours. And that's when I'm thinking our tornado threat could also increase. But the big question is, do we have any prefrontals out here? Because if that's the case, if we actually have these prefrontals here at 10, 11 p.m. Central Time, they're likely going to be tornadic, and they will probably end up being a strong tornado threat. And also, how does this look? Is this really this messy? Is it really that messy and that much of just a bunch of overconvection slop along the cold front? Or is there actually a few embedded supercells in there? So big time questions on the evolution of our fronts today. Definitely some questions on the evolution of our fronts. This might end up being, I was thinking almost like yesterday, I was thinking of covering all day today, but honestly, like it's very sporadic. Today is sporadic tornadoes. So we're going to see like 1 or 2 tornadoes, and then we could literally have 3 to 4 hours with not even a single tornado warning. And then out of nowhere, we could see 5 tornado warnings and a strong tornado. And then we'll take another couple hour break. And then in the dead middle of the night, we could see more tornadoes. So there's kind of 3 different waves per se here. Our first wave is now right along that warm front in this region. Another wave will be tonight, closer to, like I said, sometime right around 7 or 8, back out in central Louisiana, eastern Texas, out here, right along that cold front and that warm front. And then overnight, there will be another round closer to the Mississippi-Louisiana border, which I think models have kind of backed off on that overnight round, or at least that very late round there. Yeah, still, but you could see a couple here. 2, 3 a.m. Eastern. Still a couple of semi-discrete prefrontal storms there. And then actually, we do have a 5% tornado risk tomorrow as well. And I'm very interested in tomorrow's 5%. I think we could easily end up seeing multiple tornadoes, potentially even a strong tornado or 2 tomorrow as well. We'll have a couple of discrete supercells in front, and then we'll have actually a semi-discrete mode with our cold front because our trough will be pulling away. So there's not going to be as widespread of forcing across this region. And what that means, it's a lot weaker ascent in the atmosphere, and storms could fire a little bit further away from each other. So I think we'll have a similar risk to today's event tomorrow. Just a little less messy. So honestly, tomorrow might have the opportunity to be a bigger tornado threat than today. You could see that warm sector is considerably larger as well. If I switch on over to this really quick. Let's see. There we go. For a minute, I was forgetting what I was going to go look at. This is the HRRR for tomorrow. This is 7 o'clock Eastern time, 6 p.m. Central time. And very spaced out semi-discrete supercells. And it's not the best environment. The biggest lacklustering ingredient is probably, honestly, nothing, to be honest. It's just not a high-end environment. Everything is kind of mid-tier. Which is really what you want for a severe threat like this in Dixie Alley. You want an equal amount of okay ingredients. You don't want like a bunch of instability and little shear. You want an okay amount of shear, an okay amount of cape, an okay amount of lapse rates, and an okay amount of moisture. So this is a really balanced, good threat for all severe hazards, but specifically tornadoes. I think tornadoes will be the biggest issue for tomorrow by quite the milestone. And I'll show you that trough here. You could see our trough going into today. Today here, we've got this kind of positively tilted, messy trough with an embedded negatively tilted shortwave. And that's allowing for a lot of defluence and divergence here aloft, a lot of spreading between those winds in the upper atmosphere, and that creates a strong amount of forcing, and that's why you're seeing this very sloppy, strong cold front that's forcing all these storms into a messy line or a mess, just an overall messy event. But you do have that tiny little shortwave again. That's what's helping with ascent in front of our messy cold front, and that's why we're seeing those confluence bands set up, and our semi-discrete risk is really the main tornado threat today. Going into tomorrow, that trough completely gets out of here. That trough is way up here in the Carolinas and back into the mid-Atlantic by the time we get into tomorrow. And it's actually this very large, broad area of very weak ascent. You can see the strongest amount of ascent is actually back up here with our snowstorm. That's where our best amount of ascent is with our snowstorm and our low pressure up there. So these storms here are very much well removed from that best area of ascent, well back up into this area, which means, again, we're going to have probably a more semi-discrete to clustered mode for severe weather. Really nothing too crazy ignites these storms here. It's probably just a little kink in the jet stream here, maybe a little embedded shortwave that really gets these storms to get going. And if you take a look here at your most unstable cape, take a look at this. So your front, we'll go to the NAM here, then switch back to this. So your front is located in here. And look at your wind barbs. Your wind barbs are pointing from west to east. That favors a semi-discrete to clustered mode for tomorrow, much more favorable than today. If we do go ahead and just bring this back for today, look at today. Everything is pointing northeast. You see that? Most of these are pointing from the southwest to the northeast, which favors that more linear, messy slop. And really the only threat is with those prefrontal storms. So tomorrow is a much better chance for those discrete supercells actually along the front. So we'll have to see. Tomorrow is not as high of an environment as today, but tomorrow has a better storm mode. And storm mode, as we've seen in the Big 25, means a lot. Storm mode is everything. If you've got a very potent environment and a terrible storm mode, April 28th, or was it 29th? It's either whichever one was a moderate, the 28th or the 29th out there in Iowa. We had a really potent environment, but the storms just never got going, and storms that did get going were sloppy. And that was a huge moderate risk. That was a big time underperformance, probably the biggest underperformance of the year. And that did next to nothing. So storm mode, it means a lot. You can see today's that more potent environment, but you've got that messier storm mode. Tomorrow's a lower end environment, but you've got that more favorable storm mode. Welcome, Lucy. Glad to see you in here. Am I going to see snow this weekend? Literally everyone is asking me, and I have zero ideas. That's very hard to say because these models underdo moisture content, but I would say there's a much better chance you don't see snow, honestly, because of how this is orientated. Because of the way this is orientated. This orientation here of your front is favoring snowfall in this area. So that's the region that will get back in snowfall here. So a bit more off to the north of where you are. So I would probably say no. That's what I do. Whenever someone asks me if it's going to snow, I say no. And then if it snows, they're not upset at me. But if you go and say we're going to get an inch of snowfall and then nothing happens, they're going to be furious. And so I always take the safer bet there. I would say no, probably not. Next weekend, I've seen a lot of talk about that. Let's see here. So going even way over here. So this is this upcoming weekend here. What day even is it? Yeah, it's Monday. So this is about 5 days out. Gracious day. Yeah. This is a very picky setup. As you can see, big differences in the model runs there. I don't think I'd be trusting the GFS on this one. Oh, wow. That's something. That is definitely something. Let me go a little bit zoomed out there. Yeah, a little bit of snowfall. No consistency at all. Gracious day. No consistency whatsoever. Man. So the mean snow accumulation is about a ½ inch of snowfall Saturday afternoon. But really, it's a boom or bust event. Gracious, we could be dealing with a big-time blizzard next week across the northern plains there. Look at that. Huge area getting about 9 inches to a foot of snowfall there. And with how deep that low pressure is, you know that's going to be blizzard conditions right there. And probably severe weather too. Yeah, look at that. Very, what's the word for it? Very, very intense and amplified low pressure for this time of year, being late November. Really good setup too. Yeah, because you just have this area, you just have this positively tilted trough here with a large area of a bunch of negatively tilted embedded short waves, and so that just allows for a snow fest essentially across the entire central and northern US. Yeah, so I can't say anything about you seeing snow. I would definitely watch Saturday closely. But we are for sure getting into a very active pattern. Starting really yesterday, we were getting into that active pattern. That's going to persist probably till at least the first week of December. And then we'll have to see if anything settles down. But really good chances for snowfall in these areas here going into the last week of November, which is now, all the way to the first week of December. But I'm not comfortable saying, like, if you're going to see snow. I see what you're dealing with there. Yeah, if somebody asked me, are we going to see snow Saturday? I would say it's a 50-50 shot. I'll keep a close eye on it. That's what I would say. I wouldn't guarantee it, and I wouldn't not guarantee it. I've got to try to avoid the question there. See if we've got anything happening here. Very, very meh. Very meh. So I'm probably not going to be here for much longer, honestly. I'll probably just end up ending the stream here in just a bit. And then if anything pops off, I'll watch it closely. And if need be, I'll hop back on because I don't want to just waste my whole day sitting here with nothing happening. I will gladly sit here all day. If there is strong tornadoes happening, I will gladly sit here all day and guide you guys through it. But if there's just light to moderate rainfall and a tornado warning once every 2 hours, that's not that bad. That's not anything horrible. But don't let your guard down. Please do not let your guard down. This day it's a long duration event that will be in waves. We're not talking about a major tornado outbreak where once storms start, it's consistent tornadoes until the next morning. We're talking about a few tornadoes between 1 p.m. and 3 p.m. We just experienced at least 2, probably more. And then maybe a couple tornadoes between the 6 p.m. and 10 p.m. time frame, then a bit of a break, and then a couple more tornadoes between about the, I don't know, midnight to 4 a.m. time frame. So don't let your guard down. There's going to be waves of tornadoes, not necessarily just one consistent line of tornadoes per se. South of Houston? Let's see. I do see that, but just remember today's environment is not crazy. Now, it is a bit crazy towards the warm front, but these storms that are in Houston all by themselves, you're looking at a very, very bad lower level lapse rates out here. So basically what that's doing is that's choking off storms. Lower level lapse rates are very, very crucial for any type of storm development. Let me see if I can show you here what our lapse rates are. We'll close this. I didn't mean to open that up. So let's go ahead and bring this forward. And this is using the NAM, which is typically more aggressive with lapse rates. And we're going to take this in front of the cold front. Gracious, this is wrong. Let's go to the WRAP model. Skip the NAM. So we're going to take this in front of the cold front down near Houston here. Actually, I've got a better idea. My apologies. Let's go to the observations from Mesoanalysis here, which just updated. And let's take one near the Houston Metro. Wow, so right off the bat, that is a very small hodograph, so you do not have mid-level wind shear is garbage. 95 mid-level wind shear, yikes. Yeah, at least want that to be 150 on a day like today. Good instability, but where's those lapse rates? 5.7. Yeah, look at that. They actually, that is horrible lower level lapse rates right there. Terrible lower level lapse rates. You do have some temperature change, but that's very, very poor. Let me go over to here. Yeah, 5. Your mid levels are a little better, but those lower levels are terrible. There's not a lot of substantial temperature change here. This is a good, well, not a good, but an okay amount of lapse rates. When you have your temperature change going like this, that's an okay amount of lapse rates here. But when you have something like this where it's cooling, you actually cool. See that part right there? That's cooling, or not cooling, warming. I'm completely opposite of what I meant to say. That's warming with height. When your temperature goes this way, that is actually warming with height, which is not what you want at all. The atmosphere should be hot in the lower levels and at the surface, a little bit cooler in the lower level, a little bit cooler in the mid level, and then like freezing in the upper level. So when you have this is good and then it goes out, that's actually called a warm nose, commonly called a capping. So that's actually what it is. Let's draw this real quick. Let's see, where can I draw this at? I'm thinking. Where can I get a blank map from? We'll just draw it on the background of the mesoanalysis. So this is your surface, right? That's your surface, your lower level jet, your mid-level jet, and then your upper level. So we'll say the black line is like 1,000 millibars, the pink is 850, the blue is 500, and the yellow is 250. So your surface, say that's like 70 degrees, right? And then in your, so 70 degrees right at that immediate surface. That's pretty good. That's okay. You know, it's not too hot, not too cold. But then in the lower levels, it's 75 degrees. So what that's going to look like is it's going to be warming with height. So it might cool. And then when you get to those lower levels, it's going to warm and then begin to cool again. So a storm's going to try to grow upscale. A storm's going to try to grow upscale and it's going to be choked off because there's warming. So it basically breaks off that thunderstorm from increasing its cloud tops anymore. So it's very complex. That's why we normally just say capping. It's like putting a lid over a water bottle. It's just a capping because when you explain it, it tends to be a little bit more difficult. So just cooling with height is really good. Warming with height is horrible. Thunderstorms hate warming with height. And this is a big issue here. This is not only just a capping, but also a dry salot too. So that's also a dry salot in that area as well. So again, your thunderstorms, it's having a great time at the lower levels, freely growing, awesome time, thinking it's going to become a big, strong supercell, maybe try to produce and it's dead. It never gets past those lower levels. It dies right at that 700 millibar. It's just stopped. You can kind of think of it like an anvil cloud almost. It acts like an early anvil cloud. You know how when you see a very healthy thunderstorm, you see all this cumulus in the mid levels and the upper levels, and then it gets sheared off at the far upper levels. Imagine that, but way earlier. So just think of a very healthy thunderstorm towards the lower levels here, starting with all that bubbling, starting to get a lot healthy, and then it just completely cuts off in the mid levels and it looks like it's completely sheared off. That's the problem that we're dealing with. Which I wonder if you can even see that. I bet you could see that in satellite. Typically you are able to. Actually, yes, you can here. So you got to look closely. I want you to pay attention to this guy right here. So that's an overshooting top right there. And watch how I pull this forward. See how it's really starting to strengthen, but then out of nowhere, that overshooting top just kind of cancels out and dissipates. And then it just kind of dissipates from there. And it's just leftover clouds. And at that point, it probably loses much of its rain as well. So it just fades away quickly. That's what's happening to these earlier storms here. So that one actually was able to hold on for quite a while, and that's probably why it was, tornadic actually. But then once it passed like into eastern Texas there, far as eastern, southeastern Texas, it hit a worse atmosphere, probably something to do with that capping, and it just choked off the thunderstorm. And this is not only evident in the lower levels, but we actually have 1, 2, and possibly even 3 dry salots in the atmosphere. So if they fight through that lower level one and think they're good, they got to get through the mid-level one. And even then, in the upper levels, which doesn't matter as much, they may even hit a third one. Really, you look at that mid-level and lower level. That's what's the most important. Especially that lower level. So, lapse rates are probably killing this threat. That, oh my goodness. I mean, look how our storm, oh my word. Like, once it hit that area of capping, it just died completely. Once it got further from that front. I mean, this was once a healthy supercell producing multiple tornadoes, and now it barely even has rain with it. Lapse rates are just so important. So these storms that are closer to the front, what the front is doing is it does act like a forcing mechanism here, so it can help with the lack of lower level lapse rates. But once these storms outrun the front, they're so far in front that they have no forcing mechanism, and they try to rely off of those lower level lapse rates, but there's no lower level lapse rate, so they just choke off and die. Today looks to be boom or bust day. It's an okay day. I'm more interested in tomorrow now, honestly. We've had this thick amount of cloud cover all day, so lapse rates aren't going to be improving from here on out. I still think we could see a couple tornadoes and maybe even another strong one today. But it's not going to be a major tornado outbreak type day, and I definitely agree with the SPC withholding from that 10 sig tornado risk. I completely agree. Let's check a little bit further west. You can see that capping is in place even further west. Once you get more north, it's not as bad. But then guess what you lose? You lose instability the more north you go. So the way how we're going to get rid of this is we're going to cool down the surface temperature. The surface temperature is going to cool, and that's going to allow for the atmosphere to also cool. So your warm nose will disappear with time. The only problem is that still is not going to improve lapse rates. Yes, that might get rid of the capping issue, but that's not going to get rid of your lapse rate issue. Your lapse rates are going to be poor for the rest of the day. And you can see you're not even going to have 5 lapse rates by the time you get to tonight. So these models that are aggressive with the supercell development, I'm not very sure about that. I think the HRRR is thinking our lapse rates are substantially better than what they actually are. So we're really just going to watch along that warm front. But like I said, I do still think we could see a couple tornadoes today. That's still very, very much a real possibility. Let's see, what is this? 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. So that's something that would definitely be a tornado threat there. If we could get storms to fire on the front, your warm nose is not nearly as obvious there. And you also have a bit of a better environment instability-wise. And maybe even lower level lapse rates there. Any better? 5.8 compared to 5.3. I mean, 0.5 might be enough to make the difference. So we'll have to watch these storms firing along the tail end of the cold front to see if they're discrete enough to promote a higher end tornado threat. But that's going to be it for me. I'm going to keep a very close tab on this severe weather event, and if I deem it necessary, I'll come back on here. If not, if I'm somehow not back here tonight, which I don't think is going to happen, I should be back here tonight, considering how things look. Once the sun begins to set, we should see an increase in all hazards. So I would anticipate me to be back here sometime, probably right about 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern. No meme intended, gracious day. But if I'm not back, I'll be back tomorrow as soon as I can. 2 p.m. I'm going to try to be here 2 p.m. I have family in Alabama, and I really want to cover for them. So I'll try to be here maybe 2 p.m. tomorrow because that threat does look like it could be pretty rough. We'll see. We'll see how it trends. It might trend a little bit later than 2 p.m. Like today trended a bit earlier than 2 p.m. Things popped off closer to noon. So we'll see if it trends a bit later. It might be closer to 6, 7 p.m. Again, no meme intended. Or it might be closer to that 2 p.m. We'll just see. Thank you guys for watching, and I should see you tonight if this stuff does pop off. If not, I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you everyone for tuning in. I greatly, greatly appreciate it, and I'll catch you guys in tonight or tomorrow's live stream. Have a great rest of your day. Goodbye. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys later on tonight or possibly tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.